The 7 things you must avoid if you want to win at anything. You know what's truly scary? It's not failing. It's winning. On the outside, while slowly sinking on the inside. And that's exactly what's happening to so many people today. We're the generation with more access to information than ever. Yet we're also the most lost, exhausted, and empty. Why? Because we're winning the wrong game. Chasing money. Drowning in information. Comparing ourselves to filtered lives on Instagram. Meanwhile, our real life stands still. No direction. No meaning. So if you want to win in your career, in business, with money, or in your purpose, great. But before you learn what to do, you need to understand what to stop doing. Because these 7 silent traps, they're draining your energy, killing your confidence, and making you chase someone else's life instead of building your own. So pay close attention. What you're about to hear isn't just another shallow self-help list. It's a map, a warning, a wake-up call. And if you ignore it, well, life will still teach you, just in the hardest way possible. But if you listen closely and apply what you learn, you'll realize you can change everything. Let's get started. Working just for money. Some people spend their entire life chasing money, like it's the solution to everything. Now, don't get me wrong, money matters. It really does. But when it becomes your only compass, you lose your way. A lot of people pick jobs just for the paycheck, totally ignoring what they're actually building along the way. They end up stuck in work they hate, clinging to that end-of-the-month deposit, and slowly settling into a life that doesn't move forward. And that's dangerous. Why? Because it limits your growth. And sooner or later, that emotional bill comes due, and it's expensive. It's like choosing to stay lost in a maze instead of building your own map. Here's what nobody tells you. Real wealth isn't about how much you make now. It's about how much you can grow over time. That's why people who learn high-value skills, like coding, video editing, or copywriting, are playing a different game. It's not about today. It's about tomorrow. It's about equity, ownership, time freedom, decision-making power. Know what that means? While some are happy with a fixed salary, others are learning how to multiply value. Guess who actually builds real wealth? I remember this young guy who turned down a high-paying job to work as an apprentice at a small startup. Everyone said he was crazy, but he learned everything: digital marketing, automation, sales, leadership. Today, he's not just leading a team, he owns a piece of the business. He earns from the company's results. While most were chasing job security, he was chasing growth, personal and financial, and he got it. He learned early on. You need to become more valuable than your paycheck. Now look, I get it. That choice takes guts. Not everyone's willing to give up short-term comfort to build something greater. But let me tell you something. The market doesn't reward people who work more. It rewards people who deliver more value. So your focus should be on building skills that make you needed. Actually, forget needed, irreplaceable. Here's the truth. You don't get paid for the hours you work. You get paid for the size of the problem you solve. And that brings us to the next trap, one of the most tempting of all. When people finally start making a little more money, they feel the need to show it off. Enter the flex. Social media becomes a stage. And suddenly, the goal shifts from building value to displaying status. But the cost of that? That's what we'll talk about next. Buying a luxury lifestyle. It's funny. The moment people start making their first real money, they feel this urge to prove to the world that they've made it. So they buy cars they don't need, eat at places they can't afford, and book trips just to post stories online. It's like success needs to be validated by likes. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. Flaunting a fake lifestyle doesn't bring you closer to freedom. It chains you to silent debt. It's easy to look rich. The hard part is building real wealth. And the difference lies in what you choose to do with that first bit of money. See, when someone spends on a finance car, designer clothes, or overpriced dinners, what they're really doing is trading the chance to invest in assets for liabilities that drain their future. Assets create money. Liabilities consume it. Buying the latest iPhone might give you some status, but investing that same amount in Apple or Amazon stock, that might give you financial freedom. See the difference? One builds, The other just hides what's missing. So many people are focused on looking successful, but the ones who build quietly, who invest behind the scenes, are the ones who enjoy the rewards in peace. No applause needed. Now, don't get me wrong. You don't have to live like a monk, but you do need strategy. Instead of dropping a fortune on a car, why not invest in short-term rentals in tourist areas? Instead of blowing your paycheck on a weekend, why not put a portion into crypto projects with solid fundamentals like Ethereum or Solana? Here's a simple rule. Before you spend, ask yourself, does this move me closer to freedom or farther away? If it takes you farther, maybe it's time to rethink. Because financial education starts with small choices. Made consistently, those choices shape your future. And if you think living with less right now is a sacrifice, let me tell you, this isn't about limitation. It's about strategic intelligence. The truly wealthy, they don't care what people think. They know real wealth is quiet in the beginning. Those who shout the loudest are often trying to hide their insecurity. Have you ever seen Warren Buffett walking around with gold chains or dining at Michelin star restaurants every week? Me neither, and he's one of the richest people ever. That says a lot. The trap of showing off isn't just financial. It's emotional, because the more you live to impress others, the farther you drift from yourself. And that emptiness, it grows, until one day you realize you've lost control of your own journey. That's when many people make their next mistake, thinking they have to do everything alone. Let's talk about that next. Trying to do it all alone. Some people believe they need to be a one-person army. That asking for help is a weakness. That sharing means losing. But the truth is exactly the opposite. No one builds lasting wealth alone. When you try to do everything by yourself, you become your own ceiling. And that limits not just your results, but your health, creativity, and time. Business and life runs on teamwork, connection, and the ability to delegate. That's how you scale. That's how you multiply. Think about the biggest names in entrepreneurship. Elon Musk, he was surrounded by brilliant minds when they built PayPal. That group, known today as the PayPal Mafia, not only got rich together, they helped create billion-dollar companies. YouTube, LinkedIn, SpaceX, Tesla, none of that was built in isolation. They grew as a team. The game changes when you realize you don't have to be the best at everything. You just have to be excellent at something. And connect with people who are great at what you're not. And look, this applies to small business owners too. Think about that local shop owner who still manages everything with pen and paper. They need someone like you. Today, if you understand digital tools, automation, website building, social media, or online management, you've got a massive opportunity in your hands. Here's a practical example. You can offer a complete solution using platforms like Odoo, WordPress, or Notion. You bring value, real value, and in return you can charge well, or even negotiate a share in profits, equity. That, by the way, is one of the smartest ways to get into business without starting from scratch. Sometimes you don't need to build a company. You can partner with one by offering high-value skills they don't have. Most traditional business owners are experts in their product, but not in the digital world. If you learn how to approach that with strategy, ethics, and vision, you can turn small businesses into profit machines and make yourself indispensable. But here's a warning. With so much to learn, so many opportunities popping up, so much information out there, it's easy to get overwhelmed. And if you don't know how to filter what goes into your mind, you'll end up stuck, paralyzed, not knowing where to start. That's why the next step is critical. Learning how to choose the right inputs. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about next. Too many inputs, opinions, and directions. We live in the information age. But ironically, it's also the age of decision paralysis. With every video, podcast, post, or unsolicited opinion, it gets harder and harder to choose a path. And the problem isn't a lack of information, it's the overflow. You wake up motivated to start a project, but after just a few pieces of content, you're already second-guessing everything. One person says, invest in the stock market. Another swears by digital businesses. Someone else says, quit everything and live off passive income. The result? You don't move forward. You just spin, around and around and around. That's why you need to be selective with what you consume. Not every opinion is worth gold. Not every tip comes from someone who's actually built something real. Ask yourself, does this person live what they preach? Do they have real results? Are they consistent? If not, walk away. Your mind is like a garden. What you plant will grow. But if you plant confusing seeds, you'll harvest out. Having clear goals is like holding a map. Only then can you tell which advice is moving you closer and which ones are just sending you in circles. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about ignoring advice altogether. It's about where that advice comes from. Mentors change lives. One good book can save you years of trial and error. One solid course can open doors that have been shut for decades. Want a powerful place to start? Read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Or listen to Jim Rohn. He used to say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That applies to content too. Videos, books, social media. Choose wisely. And here's the thing. Not all knowledge has to be consumed at once. Sometimes the best thing you can do is learn one thing, apply it, and only then move to the next step. What's the point of knowing 10 paths if you can't take the first step down any of them? People confuse movement with progress. They're constantly learning, but never actually growing. And when your mind is tired, it can't think clearly. It just reacts. That's why less is more, and focus is gold. And speaking of focus, there's one major growth killer we all need to talk about: the ego, that little voice inside that whispers. You already know this. You don't need anyone's help. That doesn't apply to you. The ego is sneaky, and in the next part, you'll see why it's often your biggest enemy. Being driven by ego. Ego is a master in disguise. It speaks gently. It pretends to protect you, but in truth, it holds you back. It's the reason you ignore valuable advice, because you think you already know enough. It's what makes you reject feedback. It's what bothers you when someone achieves more than you do. It's what makes you look smart instead of becoming smarter. And you know what's most dangerous about ego? It doesn't shout. It whispers. Whispers that you're right, that you're better, that you don't need to change anything. And that's exactly where growth stops. Because real learning only happens in fertile soil, and ego hardens the ground. You've heard that iceberg metaphor, right? What you know, what you see, is just the tip, but what's underneath? That's what holds it all together. Truly wise people understand this. They know the more they learn, the more they realize how much they still need to learn. That's not weakness. That's humility. It's understanding that to evolve, you have to make space. Let go of your certainties. Let go of the arrogance. Let go of the need to always be right. Because ego wants status, but growth demands surrender. Some people think thinking big means dreaming about the top. But the truth is, thinking big means paying attention to the small things. It's having a financial mindset, but also knowing the power of listening, adjusting, and walking beside those who know more than you. People who are always staring at the horizon forget that the next step is what really matters. I've seen so many people stuck because they wanted to skip steps, chasing results while ignoring the process. And guess what? They end up in the same place, trapped in the image they built of themselves. The good news? You can break out of it. The key is to recognize your ego without identifying with it. Instead of resisting what's new, embrace the discomfort. Instead of competing with people who know more, learn from them. Admit what you don't know. Sit in the front row. Ask questions. Start over as many times as you need. Because personal growth isn't a straight line. It's a winding road full of detours, setbacks, and rebuilding. And there's one type of person ego loves to control. The kind who always finds someone else to blame. It's never their fault. It's the government, the boss, their parents, the school, always someone else. But when you refuse to look inward, you stay stuck. Because while you're pointing fingers, life just keeps moving. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about next. Blaming others. Blaming others is tempting. It gives you instant relief. When something goes wrong, it's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. Because taking responsibility, that hurts. But here's the cold truth. Personal responsibility is what separates winners from complainers. Have you ever seen a truly successful person constantly blaming the government? Their school? Their childhood? Look around. You won't find them, because they figured out one thing. When you shift the blame, you also shift the power to change. And without that power, you become a spectator in your own life. There's a metaphor I really like: the mirror and the magnifying glass. People who live holding a magnifying glass see everything around them enlarged. Other people's mistakes, the flaws in the system, the injustices of the world. But those who choose the mirror, they see what they can actually fix. Like the student who blames a teacher for a bad grade after binge-watching Netflix all week. Or the employee who blames traffic when they always leave late. Those tiny excuses become habits. And those habits, they become a lifestyle that traps you. Yes, life is unfair to all of us, but the difference is in how you respond. Some people use pain as an excuse. Others use it as a launch pad. I've seen people start from nothing. No support, no money, no encouragement. And still, they built side hustles, studied personal finance, learned digital skills, found mentors, and turned everything around. Not because life was perfect, but because they made a decision to take control. And here's the key. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to act, you'll be waiting your whole life. The secret isn't changing the world. It's changing how you show up in it. That feeling that you never had opportunities, it might even be true. But what if, starting today, you became your best opportunity? That changes everything. From that moment on, every mistake becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes fuel. And every obstacle becomes a reason to rise one level higher. But there's one more step, and it scares a lot of people. Leaving your comfort zone. Because when you stop blaming, you start moving. And moving forward takes courage. Change takes action. Growth takes letting go. And that's exactly what we're talking about next. Staying stuck in your comfort zone. The comfort zone is tricky. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't pressure you. It just rocks you to sleep. It lulls you into routine. It numbs you. And that's why it's dangerous. Because while you're repeating the same habits, the same thoughts, the same fears, time is passing. And when you finally look up, 5, 10, even 20 years are gone. Life has become a loop with no direction. Here's the wake-up call. Everything you want, everything you dream of, lies outside that safe zone. And the only way to reach it is to step out. A lot of people confuse stability with security. But stability without growth is just disguised stagnation. Want a simple example? Think of someone who's been in the same job for years, doing the same tasks, earning the same paycheck. They think they're safe, but the market changes. Technology changes. The world moves on. And suddenly, they're outdated, stuck, afraid to start over. The solution? Constantly develop high-value skills. And accept that real growth comes from daily challenge, not comfortable repetition. Take it from someone who's lived it. I started out as a carpenter's apprentice, making next to nothing. Later, I took the risk to start my own business. I even flew to China to find suppliers, without speaking the language, without knowing anyone. Years later, already established, I did something completely new. I launched a YouTube channel at age 53. And you know what? It was uncomfortable. It was scary. But it gave me a whole new sense of purpose. Why? Because personal growth requires expansion. And expansion only happens when you move. Stepping out of your comfort zone isn't jumping into the dark. It's flipping on a new light. You can start small. A new course, a challenging book, a deep conversation with someone outside your bubble. Then take another step, and another, and another. Before you know it, what once scared you becomes your new normal. And then you realize you become bigger than your fear, bigger than your excuses, bigger than the old version of you that clung to comfort. And that feeling, It's addictive because it reveals something that comfort never could: infinite possibility. Now that you understand these 7 traps that silently kill your progress and block true wealth, you might be wondering, okay, but what should I actually do every time I receive money? That's a great question. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. But let me ask you something first. After all this, are you still going to keep following the same patterns that keep most people stuck? Will you keep working just for money? Keep showing off a version of success that has no roots? Or are you finally ready to take the wheel of your journey and build a life that makes sense? Not just for others to see, but for you to actually live? These 7 traps aren't just simple tips. They're invisible brakes slowing down brilliant lives. So let me ask, which of these brakes is still on your foot? Are you waiting for life to change on its own? Or are you willing to change yourself first? Maybe now is the time to look in the mirror, to take responsibility, to swap distractions for direction. Because deep down, you already know what you need to do. All you needed was a little push. And if this video was that push, then make it count. Which of these 7 traps are you going to eliminate first? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear which one hit you the hardest, and which one you're ready to leave behind for good. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here, we don't just talk about success. We talk about how to win, with awareness, with strategy, and with purpose. Because in the end, winning at anything starts with winning yourself.